not just common knowledge. The government is not responsible for the outcomes. Parents are. You know, it's parents' privilege to walk alongside their kids, to encourage their kids, to develop good relationship with teachers for better outcomes. And just with the mental health issues, like there's just so much that's being overlooked because of COVID and conversations that aren't being had, that I'm just afraid that there's going to be more mental health issues as a result of just continued COVID and just continued just not being able to be free to just go to class and get a basic education, which is the paramount duty of our Washington State Constitution. Education is a very important piece, and it needs to continue to be an important piece. I also ran out of concern regarding curriculum that's being imposed on kids, the shallow ideology of comprehensive sex education that adds to the destructive outcomes that plague our kids, that somehow our highest aspect of personhood is how we identify sexually. It's completely void of all the traits that encompass a person. It's not just sex education that's looking to over-sexualize children. At Meridian School District, they're trying out a new curriculum called Springboard, and expecting that teachers will use it, and they're using novels such as The Eyes Were Watching God, a book about a teacher who rapes a student and gets her pregnant. The book contains sexual battery, profanity, racism, racist terminology, drug and alcohol abuse. And I know you all remember what happened with Bellingham School District in a first grade class where they were reading I Am Jazz, and just the comprehensive sex education that promotes materials that plant thoughts and ideas in the minds of little children, that teach them that their sexual identity is a choice. Statewide mandates also with the diversity, equity, and inclusion in our education system acts on the assumptions that us parents are bigoted and intolerant, and so forcing anti-racism, which is racism, tells kids of different ethnicities and race that unless white people constantly check their privilege, minority people can't succeed. And I can't think of anything more insidious to instill in our education system and to put on minority populations in our districts. So working with kids also should just be nonpartisan. I don't like hearing the stories that kids are coming home and their teachers talking about who they voted for and who they put on their ballot, because it stops discourse from happening, and it shuts kids down from being able to share an opposing view. And I know that my oldest daughter felt this way in college. She felt like her grades were going to be affected if she offered an opposing view. And the idea of schools is to give them critical thinking skills, to create open discourse where they can have open conversation, and not someone in a position of authority, like a teacher or a professor, to instill their views, which kids ultimately don't want to go against because they want to do well. I think I also do not want to hear teachers promoting their vaccination status, because to me, as a nurse, that's giving medical advice, and that's not their place. We need to quit promoting the bigotry of low expectations in our classrooms. Like Lee said, we need to go back to the basics, meet like collectively where everybody's at, and go from there. Why do we want to continue our path forward when we've already lost a year? So we need to acknowledge that and kind of assess where everybody's at and do our best to get everybody back on board. And that's unfortunate for kids who can, for whatever reason, were able to stay ahead. But I've heard from numerous teachers the fear that there's going to be a huge dropout rate. And our society shouldn't have to worry about the dropout rate that is potentially going to happen. We already have struggling workforces and can't find employees. We need to quit focusing on immutable characteristics. They don't define a person. And it's families and not government programs that will always be the child's best lifelong support to productive and positive functional outcomes for any individual. So I'm running just to protect our public education, to just be a voice for those parents that feel the way that I do, I want to keep programs like the Be the One mentorship that is able to, you know, because sometimes you can say something to your kids that when someone else says it, it's all of a sudden they can hear what they have to say, and it's beneficial. And those programs, you know, now require those people to be vaccinated. And it's just disheartening because there's a lot of kids, like I said, that are struggling with mental health issues. And I also want local programs like Backpack Buddies and Open Hands to be a part of the conversation to provide resources to struggling families. I want to keep our community involved in being part of our local issues and being the answer to those issues. We have kids coming from homes where poverty exists and the primary reasons are mental health issues and substance abuse. I want our counselors in the schools to be available to struggling kids and give them the resources that they need. I want to keep having discussions with local school board about mask mandates and if vaccines are going to be required in the future. And what will our options be as parents? We need to stop the fear mongering that's associated around COVID-19, as no one denies the validity and the potential outcomes associated with COVID, but we need to continue to move forward and foster growth, as we've already lost, like I said, a year and a half of school. And it would also benefit our district to know where the legal counsel stands on ensuring citizen rights in regards to our state and federal constitution. So that's pretty much it. It's more just humbling because when people reach out to me because they know that I'm running, I don't have all the answers like Laura said, and it's especially in a time like COVID. But I just think education is about teaching kids. Like, it's not rocket science. If a science teacher can teach science, a math teacher can teach math, a literature teacher can teach literature, and we need to stop with all like the gross over-sexualized curriculum, and parents need to get involved in committees. I just want to bring back the parental involvement in schools. I think I'll end with that.
Thank you, Tonya. For those of you who may have just joined us,